FRCMedia will once again be providing information on the candidates and ballot initiatives in this year's election. We're inviting candidates who are challenged in the state primary to take part in an interview before Election Day. One such race is for the Republican nomination for governor. This week, I spoke with candidate Brian Shortsleeve, who's running against Michael Minogue for the right to take on incumbent Governor Maura Healey in November. So for people who may not know who Brian Shortsleeve is, just basically tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to run for governor.
Well, thanks, Keith. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian Shortsleeve. I am a proud Marine. I'm a successful business owner. I'm a proven government reformer. And most importantly, I'm the father of 3 teenage boys with my wife of 19 years, Liz. I am running for governor because I believe that Massachusetts desperately needs new leadership. This is a great state. I've spent my life in the private sector building businesses in Massachusetts. I founded my own firm about a decade ago. Since I got out of business school 25 years ago, I've been working with smaller firms, helping them grow and thrive. And I want Massachusetts to be number one again. It wasn't too long ago that we were the number one state in New England in terms of job growth and opportunity for young people. But if you look at where we are in Massachusetts today, we are now 50th out of 50 nationally in private sector job growth. We have 100 people leaving Massachusetts every day. And the reason why is because everything here has gotten too expensive. Taxes are too high. Electric and gas bills are too high. Local property taxes are too high. So I am running for governor to restore affordability. I'm a Marine, and in the Marine Corps, you always put the mission first and never step away from a tough fight. My focus is affordability, and I've got very concrete plans to make this state more affordable for middle-class families and for small businesses.
During a primary season, a lot of times, the candidates that may be running in a primary, the core issues tend to be both candidates tend to be more in line with some of the core issues. And a lot of times it comes down to labels. I mean, we've seen it across the country in some U.S. Senate races where on the Democratic side, there may be someone who's a little more progressive than another. On the Republican side, we hear the phrase, of course, a MAGA Republican. How do you characterize your political style?
Well, I am a proud Charlie Baker Republican. I am a pro-choice Republican. I am an electable Republican. In Massachusetts, if you look at the kinds of Republicans that have won the governor's race in the last 30 years, there's been 5 of them. And they're all businessmen that are pro-choice, fairly moderate on some of those social issues, but they're focused on fiscal discipline. They're focused on growing the private sector economy. I'm the only candidate in this race who has ever audited a state agency, Keith. I will not need on-the-job training to audit state government. I've been there. I've done that. I did it a decade ago. So a lot of people can talk the talk about auditing state government. I will walk the walk.
Let me get back to your race with Mike Minogue. How would you characterize on some of the issues, your differences with him? You mentioned, about part of his background, but in terms of some of the issues, what are some of the differences you'd like to bring up?
Well, look, here's the big differences. I've spent my life in small business. He's a billionaire healthcare corporation CEO. I have run an extremely transparent campaign. I'm available. I will talk to anybody, anytime. I do a ton of media. I do a ton of radio. I am honored to be on your show today. I've called for 6 statewide debates. I think we should have a debate in Bristol County. Maybe you could host it. I think we should have a debate out in the western part of the state. Mike Minogue will not debate. He doesn't want to answer the tough questions. He's hiding out in the basement. That didn't work for Joe Biden. It won't work for Mike Minogue. And finally, I would tell you, in terms of our direct learned experience, I have been in a state agency. I have demonstrated I can walk the walk on delivering conservative reform for taxpayers. We stripped millions of dollars in waste and abuse out of the MBTA. Mike's never done that. Mike's never been in a public agency, never driven the change the way that I have. And most importantly, the biggest difference between us is I am an electable conservative. I am a pro-choice conservative. This state has not elected a candidate in more than 60 years who's an anti-choice candidate. I am a pro-choice candidate, and I can win this general election.
You talk a lot about affordability. You mentioned about, small businesses, helping small businesses out, and how, people and businesses are migrating out of Massachusetts. But for those who live in the Commonwealth, what are your plans to make it more affordable for those who are here and are not looking to leave Massachusetts?
Well, look, I love Massachusetts, and the reason I'm in this race is because I want my 3 teenage sons to come back to Massachusetts after college and raise their families here and build their dreams here. So I've laid out a very detailed plan of what I will do to make this state more affordable. Day one, I will strip all of those state mandated fees out of your electric and gas bills. Massachusetts now has the highest electricity rates in the entire continental United States. Think about that. The highest electricity bills in the entire continental US, close to 36 cents per kilowatt hour. Almost a third of your bill are now state mandated fees. There are 12 different fees running through your bill. In the aggregate, Keith, that's over $1.5 billion a year of taxes effectively that is being run through consumers' electric and gas bills. I talk to seniors all the time that have to choose between paying their mortgage or paying their gas bills. To put it in perspective, the average middle-class family today in Massachusetts is now paying close to $500 per month in gas and electric. That's $6,000 a year. I will strip all of those fees out. That would save the average family close to $1,500. I would also roll the state income tax from 5% back to 4%. That would provide immediate relief for businesses because most small businesses pay at the individual rate. It would also provide immediate relief for middle-class families on the tune of $1,500 in savings. That's real money. More money for groceries, more money for healthcare, more money for kids. I would suspend the gas tax immediately through executive order. I would end the tax on tips and the tax on overtime through executive order. Those are very concrete steps that we can take to make Massachusetts more affordable for middle-class families.
You were recently in New Bedford last weekend for the big feast in New Bedford, but you're also there, I believe, a week and a half or so before that, and you actually came up with a Shore Up the South Coast plan. How would this plan, benefit cities like Fall River and New Bedford?
Well, look, I'm down at Fall River, New Bedford all the time, and this is a part of the state that feels left behind by Beacon Hill. So I rolled out my plan for the South Coast last week. It starts with protecting and growing the fishing industry. In New Bedford, that fishing port is the largest commercial port in the entire country. It's billions of dollars of economic activity. It's thousands of jobs. We've got to protect that port. We've got to scale up our government support. I also will invest in tourism support and marketing. There are great, great locations all over Fall River and New Bedford that we should be promoting with more marketing. I used to love taking my boys when they were in the Boy Scouts down to Battleship Cove and Fall River and enjoying those experiences. We will do that. We're also very, very committed to a Chapter 90 mileage adjustment for parts of the state like Bristol County, where people spend a lot of time in their cars. And then also, most importantly, I've committed that we will double unrestricted local aid. If you look at the state budget, Keith, it's grown dramatically over the past 6 years. Since 2019, we've had 200,000 taxpayers leave Massachusetts, but our state budget has grown by 60%, from $42 billion to $66 billion. The one line item in there that has not grown is unrestricted local aid. And that is what cities and towns like Fall River use for the police department and the fire department. I was in New Bedford at fire station number 9 about a month ago. That's a fire station that is facing closure over a $2 million budget shortfall. Yet at the same time, at the state level, Maura Healey, our governor's never had more money. In fact, in the budget she just passed, she's got $40 million to fund free phone calls for prison inmates. Yet she can't find $2 million for the Fall River fire station, the New Bedford fire station. But you see that across the board. You see it in Fall River. You see it in suburban communities that are facing Proposition 2.5 overrides because the state is not pushing enough unrestricted local aid back.